I took a rock from Loki. I did ask Kevin Feige because I'm a square. I was too scared. I was like, can I take it? And he was like, of course you can. It's foam.
Hi, hello. Welcome along to Press X to Continue. My name is Steffan. Now, this is a place where we talk about the games industry. We talk about the titles we love, the ones we don't love. We reminisce about the games we used to play when we were kids and have a laugh about them. We look at what is coming down the track and help you with some advice on how to spend your cash, what games are worth your time and your money, basically. These are all the sorts of things we talk about on Press X to Continue every week. And we put those podcasts up on Spotify and Apple and all the different podcast places. So come and find us, get involved in the conversation as well. Press X Pod is our handle on TikTok, Press X Podcast on Instagram. There's a Discord as well. We'd love to have you as part of the Continue Club. But from time to time, we get these great guests on, right? And we think to ourselves, tell you what, we should probably share that on YouTube as well, which is exactly what we've been doing. So we've had Neil Druckmann, the creator of The Last of Us, with us. We have had Austin Wintory, the brilliant video games composer. And today, we've got this interview. You know, sometimes people have in their career, they have like a moment where they keep doing one brilliant project after the other. In like a sporting term, you'd say someone's on like a heater. Well, that is very true of our guest on Press X this week. So Kate Herron is the writer and director who has worked on, listen to this CV, Loki, the Marvel show, Sex Education, the massive Netflix hit, The Last of Us, Doctor Who, and she's currently writing and directing the upcoming, well, will be directing, she's not directing it yet, she's currently writing the upcoming Sims movie. So an amazing CV of stuff that she's working on. She also absolutely loves her video games, and so she came and she sat down and had a chat to us all about those projects and about her love of games as well. So sit back and listen to our chat with Kate Herron. So the last time that we spoke, Kate, would have been in London when we were chatting about you writing that episode of Doctor Who. So we have, so full disclosure for people listening is we have met before, we've done this before.
Yes.
And that was television works on such a different time scale. That was so long ago that it blows my mind.
And I was on a very high stool, I remember, and I was sat really strangely. This is my significant memory from that. Yeah. But anyway, yes.
Are you saying my questions weren't memorable, Kate? Is that what you're saying?
No.
So Kate and her co-writer Bryony worked on Doctor Who. They did an episode called Rogue, which is fantastic, and I can remember the making of that episode very clearly because there's a lot of secretive. There's these amazing, essentially bird people in it, and introducing a fantastic character. So if you've not seen that episode of Doctor Who, go and watch it. But welcome along. We've got Kate Herron with us this week, and now Kate, we will get into your career, what you're up to at the moment, because I was looking at what you're doing at the moment, what you've literally just done, and what you're working on, and things you've done in the past, and you're sort of living out the sort of dream CV of a sci-fi fantasy gaming nerd, right? And I use nerd in a positive way. I'm wearing a Games Workshop t-shirt. You know, like you're doing it. You're doing the thing.
I feel very lucky, honestly. Like I've got to work on some very, very cool stuff, and It doesn't go unappreciated in the sense that, I try to soak it up and enjoy it. But it's a very surreal life in many ways.
Yeah, and of course it's always hard, isn't it, when you get given, I've been lucky enough to do some jobs that I'm really pleased with and proud of, this being one of them, getting to interview people like you, and sometimes you pinch yourself like, oh my goodness, is this actually what, my job sort of thing. And that can sometimes take away from the joy of it, isn't it? So it's hard sometimes, especially when you're doing high profile things that you're doing, to sort of, or do you find it hard to just focus on, oh my God, I'm directing an episode of Loki today, or directing an episode of The Last of Us or whatever?
I definitely, I was a temp for so long. Like anytime I'm getting to direct and write, I'm so happy. And just, I really do appreciate it. I mean, I remember on Loki, this is so strange that I did this in a way, but I remember, for example, we had the Lamentus kind of bit where they run through and the whole city is collapsing around them. And they had these little foam rocks, But I remember going to Universal Studios with my family when I was a kid, and they had like an earthquake simulator, and they had foam rocks that would hit you. And I remember being like, wow, the magic of cinema. They looks like a real rock. But I took a rock from Loki. I did ask Kevin Feige because I'm a square. I was too scared I was like, can I take it? And he was like, of course you can. It's foam. But yeah, but I took it. And I framed it just because, it's little moments like that are so magical. And look, on Last of Us, like I remember being on so many of those sets and I felt like I was walking in the video game. Like I was like, this is very surreal in many ways. I think you do have those moments, but then also at the same time when you're directing, it's so busy and you're having to make so many decisions. You get a blip at that moment and then it's like, oh wait, no, I have to focus now and actually like make sure I do this properly. So So,
I do actually have a job to do as well as this appreciating how cool this is. So for people who aren't necessarily across everything you've done recently, Kate, tell me what I've left out. But Kate's been directing the Loki series that you can watch, Sex Education as well, 4 episodes of that. In the last series of The Last of Us, she directed an episode, possibly there are like 2 really key, there are loads of key elements of that series, but you did one of them, in terms of the relationship between Dina and Ellie, so a key episode in that series. You've written, like I said, for Doctor Who, and are currently co-writing and directing the Sims game. So that Sims game adaptation. So there is a lot going on. And before we delve into some of that and some, your work and what you've been up to, let's talk about your relationship with games, because when we did our interview for Doctor Who Unleashed, whenever that was 2 years ago, well, my sense of time gets warped, but a while ago, we started talking about your love of gaming, and you're someone who I would describe as really loving their games, Kate.
Yeah, it's so funny because I grew up playing like a lot of Nintendo games, and then in lockdown, and I had played other games like through friends of mine's consoles basically, but I'd never had like a PlayStation or an Xbox basically. So during lockdown, I remember I bought a PlayStation and I was like, I'm gonna do this now, because I'd played like. I remember one time going to my friend's house who had a PlayStation and he had Heavy Rain. And I remember I was unemployed and he went to work that morning. Yeah. And I was like, oh, can I like play the game? And he was like, yeah, sure. So I went to his house just to play Heavy Rain. And I remember I got there as he left for work and he came home in the evening and I was like finishing the game. I'd just been sat there like just playing it because I was so desperate to play the game. But anyway. But I think in lockdown, it was really exciting for me because I had my own PlayStation and it meant that I remember I just asked everyone I knew, I was like, what should I be playing on this? And I got a huge list from lots of people and I just worked my way through all the, like not all of them, obviously, because that'd be impossible, but I worked my way through many titles and many games. And it was just really fascinating to me as a storyteller, just in terms of like, like What Remains of Edith Finch, like how that does storytelling in a game, I thought was so interesting. Or
so like moving as well.
Oh, it's amazing. Like
it's a tearjerker. I mean,
yeah.
Wow.
It was fantastic. Like I loved that game. And then also on the other hand, something like Oxenfree, like how that game design worked and the story worked in that and the music in that game. Oh my word, it's so good. But so I went deep in like these indie games. But then I also really, or like, Undertale actually, to be fair, I played on my Switch. But anyway, I really enjoyed seeing the different storytelling aspects. But then, yes, also playing these big main titles like The Last of Us or Uncharted or God of War, and just getting a sense of like, oh, okay, this is how like these stories work and this big scale storytelling within the game world. And Last of Us just really like blew my mind. I just loved it.
Because you were already making telly by that point, right? Because you'd started working...
I was on Loki when this all was happening.
Right, fantastic. Yeah, I was trying to figure out the timeline of it because, again, like I say, like... we were talking about this the other day because we were talking about Warzone coming back, because Warzone was my pandemic game, and the pandemic it sometimes feels like it was eternity long and other times feels like it was a blink of an eye, isn't it? So I do kind of so you're working on Loki as you're working your way through these games. Did any of those experiences any sort of, I hate using the word learnings, but you know what I mean? Did any thoughts or creative things sort of bleed through from some of those experiences into the work you were then doing on the TV side of things?
I think that, it was interesting for me because Loki is a character who, and I've spoke about this a lot, but, they exist in the grey. in terms of Loki's not good or bad. They're somewhere in the middle, kind of where they're going to go. And I think that was always really interesting to me. And that definitely connected with me in The Last of Us for sure, again, because that whole game, I thought the empathy in it was really fascinating, because there'd be characters I would absolutely hate, but then, I don't know, 10 hours later, I'd be rooting for them. So I thought that was, and I was like, this game's really done a number on me. But that was, from a storytelling perspective, very interesting and psychologically interesting to me. So, and, you know, like when Joel died in the game, I felt like someone real had died. Like, I was absolutely devastated. I don't know how I didn't know that happened. That's somehow amazing. Managed to avoid it. But I remember just being... It was terrible, but I remember then I loved the memories and how they bled into the game, because, you know, you'd be like, oh, he's back, and you get to spend a bit of time with him. But then when he wasn't there, I thought it was fascinating, you know, this new journey that Ellie was going on, and where the story was now going, basically, in terms of even just the world building with the WLF and the Seraphites. So, yeah, I think that it just really opened my mind into what storytelling in a game could be. And that isn't just The Last of Us, but that is for me one of the best in terms of storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, and I talked to Neil Druckmann about this a couple of weeks ago, because we had Neil on our podcast about the sort of the Abby switch up, and I'm still fascinated by how you do that in a visual linear form, because obviously in the game I put my controller down. I was like, no, I'm not playing this woman. She killed my guy. You know, I don't want to. I'm not her. But then you are her, and you embody her, and you start to sort of empathize. And it's interesting. That is something that, and you can play with perspective. What was that TV show? Did you ever watch The Affair?
Oh, I didn't. No.
So in The Affair, what they would do is you would see. I only watched the first season, but you would see the same scene replayed, but from different perspectives, and it was subtly different, which I thought was really clever. But anyway, but like TV doesn't do it as much as maybe a game can do, because you are actively controlling them. So there's bits like that I think games are really interesting, and how people like you then who've got an appreciation of both sides of it cross it over, I think is going to be a fascinating conversation.
No, I mean, I love stuff. I mean, it's Rashomon, right? It's like you see like the same story from someone else's perspective. And I had that complete reaction with Abby. Initially, I was like, nope. And then I was like, But then I was like, no, but I want to see where the story goes. So I was like, I'm going to do this. And I trust the creators, and I'm going to just go along for the ride and see. And then, and I did get deeper into Abby's story, and I did end up on Abby's side in the story. Not saying I wasn't on Ellie's, but it was just such an interesting complication, because I remember at points being like, oh, I'm really worried for her. And I was like, oh, I care about her. Oh, this is interesting. You know what I mean? So,
goodness, stop challenging me. I'm just trying to have a nice time. Did you have to park your relationship with the game at the door when you started working with it because it's an adaptation, or did you bring some of your experiences of playing it with you? And how did you even get the phone call in the first place?
So, okay, firstly, I would say in terms of parking I just don't think I have it in me. I think whenever I'm directing something that's adapted, I have to be a fan of the source material, because I always know that if I was a fan of the source material, I would really hope that the person being part of the adaptation also loved it as much as I did. So that's always like a thought I have in the back of my head, because, you know, if I'm sent stuff that I think is cool, but I'm like, actually, look, this is a really cool franchise, but I just don't have this really emotional connection to it. And I think I need that, honestly, to do good work. Because Loki, like, I love Loki. And so I was like, I know I can do this. And that's why I pursued it so heavily. And it was the same with The Last of Us. Honestly, I just was like, because I get it. You look at my work, right? Like Sex Education, Doctor Who, Loki, but you don't immediately think, this is someone that could do a really harrowing, like, you know, I wouldn't think like, oh, she's the one. So so I just said to my agent, can you just ask if they will meet me? Because I would just love to meet them. And I remember that I went on a Zoom call with them because I was in London at the time. And I remember that Neil was early. And so I got to talk to Neil for 5 minutes before everybody else joined the call, which I was thrilled about. And I remember just thinking in my head, look, you've got this far. If you don't get the job, I was obviously really going for the job. But at the same time, I was like, if I don't get it, I just got to talk to Neil for 5 minutes. And that's pretty cool, because I really like the game that he made. So, but no, in the interview, I had zero chill. I was like showing them like my vinyl records. I had like an Ellie statue in my study back in London. I was showing I was just like, look, I love this game. This is why I love it. And these are questions I have about the season. And this is why I think I would be able to bring something to it. And as a director, you're always looking for a new challenge. Like, I love horror, but in Loki, it's not a horror-based show. I got a jump scare of Miss Minutes, which was very fun. But at the same time, this was a chance to really flex that muscle and show that I could direct stuff like that. And I wanted to really rise to that challenge, So I think for me, but also, yes, with that also being aware, I have to really deliver this. So no.
Sometimes when you get the job, isn't it? You're like, oh, shit, now I've actually got to go.
Yeah.
I've got to do it.
Yeah.
Damn. That is interesting that you went for the no chill approach, because sometimes like when and there'll be people listening to this, Kate, who'll be like, oh, thank goodness for that, because sometimes in like whether you're in the creative industry or not, when you go for a job, you feel like you've got to put on like a facade of the person you think they want.
Yeah.
And actually sometimes just being yourself is just so much easier, and B, better, and C, actually sometimes they want someone just to be their authentic self, right? And that's clearly worked in this instance for you.
I'm just not good at like the cool I don't know. I'm not a very cool person. You know what I mean? I'm just going to be myself, I guess, in that sense. So yeah, and I always figure if I go into the interview and I don't get it, then I just wasn't the right person for it, and that's fine, because it's so competitive, the industry, right? So but I always will be I want to give, it's like with Loki, I was like, I'm just going to give the pitch for the show that I think will be cool, and if they don't like that, that's fine. They just wanted to make something else. And it was sort of the same with The Last of Us. It wasn't to the level, obviously, that I had to pitch because the show existed, but in the sense that I was like, these are things in the story that really excite me. This is why I love the story. Because when I met them, I didn't know what episode I was going to be given. They just, we just had a conversation about it. And then they were like, yes, we'd love you to do it. And also we'd love you to do episode 4. And then when I knew that was Take on Me, The Subway, Isaac, I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is great.
I was saying, it's a great series. I'm on board with it. I know obviously with any piece of art, you can't please all of the people all of the time. And that is totally fine. And
it's impossible.
And I think the constructive criticism is fair and balanced, and that's people's thoughts. And even Neil in our interview was saying, well, actually it's good that people disagree with some of our choices, because it shows how mature the games industry is now, that we can have these conversations, which is great. But so for me, there are 2 standard episodes in the series. One, obviously the flashback episode where we see the moment on the porch, and yours, which starts with a bang, literally. With the grenade in the van, which
Josh.
I wasn't expecting that, and I've played the game or whatever. So when you found out that you had that episode, how excited were you?
Oh, I mean, it's interesting. It's like you said, as a director, as a fan, I was thrilled. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting, and it was a real tonal balancing act, with everything I had in that episode, because I had these quieter, beautiful moments like the Take on Me moment in the music store or at the very end in the theater. But then I also had these moments of high adrenaline, in terms of the subway. And yes, with Isaac, I was very excited to work with Jeffrey, but also so aware that we were introducing Isaac. So I was like, okay, I have to do this well. So I don't know. I think for me, it was exciting when I found out that Josh Peck was interested, because I was like, this is so fun, because you'll see him and then we're going to kill him. So that will be funny. And he was game. He was totally up for it. But I think that, and just working with Jeffrey, what a pleasure. He's for me, one of the best working actors. He's incredible. So
he chews up the scenery in a good way. You can't take your eyes off him. It's fantastic. Can you listen to Take on Me now? How many times have you heard it?
Oh, I've heard it a lot, but I love all the versions. I love Bella's version. I love the original version. I mean, I remember in the game, because it's so funny, because you can miss that moment. And I remember, I like details, surprise. So I remember finding it, because I would go around trying to do, try and find whatever I could, honestly. But yeah, I think for me, that was our first day of filming, and it was definitely a pressure in the sense of, I guess it's the same with all adaptation. I'm always trying to think, even if the story is being delivered in a different way, how do I capture how the game made me feel? So that's always what was in the back of my mind when I was doing the scenes.
Yeah, and very exciting, for where the series is, and clearly people, including myself, very much looking forward to when it returns, and getting more of a sense of where they take it and things like that. It's very exciting. Back to your playing then. So obviously, there you are. You're in lockdown. You're playing all these games. You're you're a writer. You want to be a director. It's really interesting because a lot of your writing is comedy, right?
Yeah.
That's your sort of hard on. In fact, I think Einel, who co-host, who sadly can't be with us today, but co-hosts the podcast, I think he mentioned that you might have done some improv with Einel back in the day.
Yeah. I did improv, basically. I did improv, I did stand-up. I was in this improv class that I remember was massive. There was like 30 of us. But I remember so many of the comedians in that group now are just like on TV. It's like really random. Like we used to meet at this, like, I think it was like in London, and yeah, it was just really fun. But I think the thing is, like, when I finished film school, I was like waitressing, and I was like, I just want to like make stuff with cool people, and I love comedy. So I was like, I need to meet comedians, basically. So how do I do that? So my thinking was, I actually weirdly worked on the door at comedy night, which is bizarre because who am I going to be able to stop? But I used to get to watch the comedy for free, which was great, because then I'd be like, hey, I have a script. Do you want to be in my short film?
Yeah.
So that worked quite well. But then, yes, I also did improv. And that's also how I met Bryony, by the way. So like I did... no, tell a lie, sorry. I met Paul Foxcroft, who was an improviser. Then he introduced me to Bryony. Then I did the improv classes, my bad. But but I did end up meeting other comedians, though, through improv, who did end up being in my short films later.
Yeah.
So
Einel says hello, and he sadly can't be with us because there would have been a really brilliant a reunion, and you could have maybe done some improv for us. But there, we've dodged that bullet at least. Of course, Bray Redman, there, who you're referring to, she is you write together, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to then, if so you've got all this sort of comedy sort of background, and then you start experiencing all these games you're playing in lockdown. And you talked about that jump then to shows like The Last of Us, but even Loki, I mean, it's got funny moments in it, but it isn't necessarily a comedy.
Yeah.
Same as Doctor Who. Okay, Sex Education is, but like, how did you, is there like a sweet spot for people who write funny things to work on things that are a bit darker, do you think?
I think so. I mean, look, I think comedy and horror always lend to each other well, because it's always about building tension, but it's just in comedy, you're making people laugh and you're not scaring them. But it's the same, mechanically, it's the same thing, I guess. But I think for me, look, I think good comedy is always about, how to explain? Like, okay, so there's like I think this is actually like an improv exercise. But you would have like two people having a fight, and you would be like, you're having like a really serious argument. You might break up. So just, enact that. So they enact it. And then it's like, okay, so now instead of the context of the fight is not that you're breaking up, and it's that one of you has watched, I don't know, the finale to your favorite television show and not told them, and they've just found out. But take the same emotional stakes you had for that way more heightened situation and apply it to this. Yeah. Or like, I guess rather than favorite, I don't know, you finish the cereal that you both like to eat. You know what I mean? But it's the circumstances that make it funny.
Both of those things are heinous and deserve high stakes arguments, to be fair.
This cereal, I would be... Can you imagine? Yeah. It's so sad if it's food, because you're like craving it, and then you're like, it's gone. Anyway.
It's that content, because it's farce, right? I suppose you're playing with that sort of, that stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is interesting, then, how that sort of crosses over then with darker, I suppose the dark and the light kind of meet in the middle somewhere, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think also I would say as a director, my first television job was with Idris Elba, and it was called 5 by 5. And I didn't write on that, but it was like through BBC Writers' Room, and it was new writers, and they were dramatic shorts. There was one in the middle, because it was 5 short films that made up one story, and the one in the middle was pure comedy. So I was very in my comfort zone for that. But all the ones around it were way heavier and much more serious. But I remember I knew someone who was working on it, and they were like, oh, you should come meet for an interview for this. And I was like, oh, absolutely, I'd love to. But I went for it. But at the time I was like, I don't know if they're going to back me for it, because everything I've done are like, has like puppets in it and is like weird comedy films. So let's see. Yeah. But they did. And it was actually really nice as a director, because I think sometimes it can be easy to stay in your comfort zone. So I think one thing that taught me was like, oh no, actually you can do drama. And it helped me. It helped me get Sex Education, because that was a drama comedy. It wasn't just pure comedy. So, yeah, I think for me, it's just always about grounding the circumstances to feel real. And then obviously with Loki and Last of Us, there was a different challenge in that there was a lot of action. But that's a whole different thing in that sense. But I love stuff like that. So I was excited to get to do it. And for me, all the best genre stuff does have humor at the center, or at least if it's not funny, like you care about the characters, I think you need that humanness running through it.
Yeah, because especially in a gaming context, you can have the best graphics, best gameplay going, but if you don't give a monkeys about the characters that you're playing, and there's loads of games where that's the case, then you don't care, you don't continue. Same with TV shows, if they can look lush on screen, but if you don't give a crap, then it's kind of no point, right? It's really interesting. So there you are. So in lockdown, you're playing all the big games. You've got your PlayStation at home, which is very exciting. Does your sort of affinity and love of games stay through? Are you still playing as much now? Maybe not as you were then, clearly, because lockdown was lockdown. But are you still playing much now?
Oh, yeah. I love it. I'm always playing games. I think I always have, but I'm trying to think. I've been playing so much Fortnite recently, honestly.
Have you? So
it's Star Wars themed, so I love Star Wars. So I'm like, I'd never really played it that much, and then I found it had the Star Wars theme, and so like me and my partner were like, we have to do this, and like we're like dedicated now.
Are you grinding Fortnite then, Kate? Is that what you're saying? You're getting your XP in?
I absolutely love it, honestly. It's becoming a problem. Like, I have to do my sim script, and I'm like, I need to stop playing this game. But it's so much fun. That's what I mean. It's like joyful battle royale. I don't know how else to describe it. Yeah. It's very funny. I like it.
But you quite like judging by what you're saying, because you were talking about Heavy Rain earlier. You were talking about Undertale. You were talking about Last of Us, and now Fortnite. So you've got quite an eclectic range of titles that you enjoy playing.
I'll play anything. Yeah, I just love storytelling, and like, Fortnite is slightly different. It's a very different kind of game, but I love the community of it, because, I go on that with my friends. So they'll text me and be like, hey, you want to jump on? And I'll be like, yes, I will. And it's dangerous, because a lot of them are in England and I'm in America right now, and the time difference is during my working day, so it's tricky. But
so anybody listening from The Sims, I am definitely not playing Fortnite with my friends in the UK.
Right? Yeah, no, I am doing it. But it is funny. But I've always loved, it's the same with movies, books, everything. Like, I don't just, I think personality wise, I do lean towards stuff that, as a writer, that has warmth or a bit of humor in it, for sure. But I love watching all kinds of stuff, Yeah. Yeah.
And playing all kinds of stuff. So it's Fortnite. And is that your that's your comfort game at the moment? Is that the one you go to all the time?
Yeah, I haven't played Blueprints yet, but I've been told that I have to.
Should.
So that's on my list. I'm doing that after I have a script deadline, and when I've done that, I will then play that game. But I just know I'm going to lose I've heard it's like puzzle based, and I'm like, it's going to take over my life. So I have to time it.
And I very nearly completed it last night.
Oh, really?
Right, but I didn't quite get the last couple of rooms right.
Oh, okay.
One tiny tip, so 2 tips I will give you before you start playing that I think will help you. So we've talked about Blueprints quite a lot on the podcast. Geeky Cassie reviewed it for us a little while ago. 2 tiny tips. I say, 1, definitely have a notebook with you, so when you're playing the game, you can write notes.
Okay.
1. And 2 is the doors link to each other, which nobody explains to you in the game, and then I spent ages trying to figure out why there's some doors like blocked off. It's because the doors need to link to each other. But you'll have a brilliant time with it. It's like, it's very different. You kind of, like it's a slower pace. It's a puzzle game, and it's got elements of intrigue in there, sort of trying to figure out what's going on. So you'll definitely, very different to Fortnite. So it's certainly a palate cleanser for you.
Okay, I'm excited. Yeah, that sounds fun.
Now, Kate, you've touched upon it, and I'm very aware that there are things that you won't be able, lots of things you won't be able to tell us. So, feel free to say as little or as much as you can about what you are currently writing. You just already touched upon it, your Sims script. Firstly, how did that come about? I mean, what a joyous thing to be asked to do. It's many people's very favourite game, isn't it?
Yes, I love that game. I basically can't say anything about anything. I can't say how I got on the project. All I can say is that we're all very excited and that I adore that game, basically. Like, I grew up, like, playing it addictively. Like, I just think it's so much fun. And again, it's a very humorous, interesting world, and I like that you can kind of make it what you want it to be, which is fun. So,
yeah, of course.
Yeah, but I can't say anything other than that, and that we have a really cool team, and yeah, we're excited, basically.
That's great. I mean, that's more than what we knew before we started this conversation. It must be a bit daunting, though, isn't it? Like some of your other projects as well, when you get something as big as that and as beloved as that, and it's a blank page there, and you're like, okay, crack on.
I just think if something doesn't scare you a little bit, then why... I mean in the context of a creative project, just for clarity. But I think I have to have a bit of that fear, right? Because it's then a challenge and you want to do like a good job with it. I think I've definitely felt that with all my projects. It was like with Loki, I was like, I know I really want to do this. On paper, yes, it's slightly wild because I've just done Sex Education, which is a drama comedy. I haven't done action on this level. I haven't done sci-fi on this level, but I know I love that stuff and I know I have a vision for what it should be like. I just haven't been given an opportunity to do that. So I think for me, yes, there will always be in the back of my mind oh wow, this is going to be quite a challenge in terms of, like just the nature of doing something like this. But
yeah, of course.
I don't know. It keeps life interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And
yeah.
Is it a big jump to be directing and co-writing? Would you rather do one or the other, or is it more fun you just doing it all?
I love it because I've ended up doing that across so much stuff I've done anyway, like even if it's like uncredited, and like I just think it's just how my brain works. And look, me and Bryony love working together. It's just really fun. So no, I'm excited. It will be fun.
Yeah. I can remember when I interviewed you both before interviews together, you can tell you have a laugh. Like there's always a gag waiting around the end of every sentence, which is a fun environment to be in.
Yeah, and I think, and look, I've been very lucky that I've also worked with very brilliant writers. And I do think every time I've directed and worked with these writers, whether that be Craig or Laurie, I've always learned something and stolen things in terms of like, Craig puts the characters' thoughts in his scripts. And I was like, I love that. I am doing that in my next script. So, I think you learn on everything you do.
Well, look, when you are able to say more and talk to us more, we'd love to have you come back and
totally.
talk to us about that. That'd be amazing. I can remember we did an episode when our podcast originally sat on the BBC before we went independent and put it in different places. We did an episode of sort of like what would you take on a desert island with you, gaming related? And one of our regular members of the Press X team, Glenn Moore, the comedian, he wanted to take, and I cannot remember why, I will go back and find this out and message you. He wanted to take the clown portrait from The Sims onto a desert island with him. And Beautiful. I cannot begin to remember why. So if that ends up in the back of shot somewhere, then you'll have at least one London-based comedian very happy, Kate. So that's
noted. Good to know.
So, and how are you finding time? Because I'm finding time to play games very difficult at the moment. I've got two small children and quite a busy work schedule at the moment.
Of course.
As a busy writer and a director, splitting your time in different countries, how do you find time to play? Are you able to find as much time to play as you'd like?
Oh gosh. I think it's honestly like it's like I'm very strict about my writing schedule. Like I hold like when I'm just writing, I have like a working day. But like I said, like I worked in offices, I was a secretary for a long time. You know, I'm used to maintaining like a working day. So I'm very strict about, I say this now and people are like, you just said you were playing Fortnite, but at lunchtime when I can. But at the same time, no, obviously if I'm in a position where I have to get my work done, I will always do that. So I think for me, and I don't have kids, I have a dog, which is a slightly different level of, you know, like he will sit with me while I play the game. So it's a different kind of thing. But no, I generally try to play games. I mean, like I said, right now I'm playing Fortnite like every evening. It's overtaken. Yeah. But no, yes, there will be moments when I'm filming when I'm not able to. But I try to make time for it where I can. You know, if I'm traveling or... Yeah, I'm always trying to make sure, or whether if it's not games, just that, yeah, I'm going to the movies or going to watch live music, you know. But it really depends. Everyone's got different free time situations. Yeah, it's very different when you have a family. So.
Yeah, it's. But I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, I suppose when it comes to when you're talking about sort of, you know, trying to stay up to date with going to the movies, listening to music, playing different games to sort of help you creatively or whatever. Does that mean that you tend to play the latest releases? I know you're in your Fortnite. You're in your Fortnite era now, so that's fine. And Fortnite's updating all the time. Or do you ever think, I want to go back like you did in lockdown and play Heavy Rain and play the classics, play, I don't know, Mario 64 or Metal Gear or whatever?
Yeah. Oh, I think that it really just depends. I kind of dabble, honestly. Like, for example, like I loved Ghost of Tsushima and I have in my diary the date of the new game release. Yeah. And I will find a way to play that new game.
Yeah, and no sim has been written that day.
I'll be like, I'm on holiday for a week, everyone, just while this comes out. But no, I think that I kind of jump between, but I would generally say I tend to play older games, but that's because I have a lot of catching up to do. Yeah. Like I've almost finished Spiritfarer, Detroit Become Human. I want to play that. I've not played that yet.
Yeah, that's I've got a big one.
That's the thing. I have such a big list of really cool, you know, it's like when someone is discovering music for the first time and they're just like, oh, I just listened to the Beatles or whatever. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like I have all these big titles that are yet to, you know, I'm yet to play. So yeah, I tend to play older ones, I probably would say.
And we have, you know, very open conversations this podcast about our piles of shame, and we don't call them piles of shame anymore. We call them piles of potential. You know.
That's nice.
We're reframing it to be a positive.
Yeah.
We talk a lot here. I like playing games on easy sometimes. You know, I don't think you have to play a game on hard if you don't want to. If you just want to experience the story.
I can't. Like, I've tried sometimes and I'm just rubbish. I just can't do it. So no, I definitely, I think there's that setting that's always like, I want to enjoy the story.
Yeah.
That is the lane I can
preach.
be in. Although, to be fair, Ghost of Tsushima, I wasn't on hard. I can't remember. It's so long ago. I can't even remember exactly how you do the levels on that game. But I feel like I did that slightly above because I got very into the fighting on that game. So I wanted to like challenge myself. But generally, yes, I have gone story mode. I wish that I could do. I'm just not. It is not a skill that I have. But
no, I'm with you. I'm the Graham. Well, listen, it's been lovely having you on. Just a couple of questions for me, just to finish up.
Yeah, sure.
Talking about you know, your experience of writing comedy and working in comedy. We've often spoken on the podcast in the past about sometimes we find games don't do comedy as well as they do horror or tension or fear and sadness and some of the other emotions, and that games find it difficult to do comedy. Have you clocked that trend? And have you got a sense as to why that is?
Oh gosh, do you know what? I would actually say like, it's not a sense to why that is, because there are some games I like that comedy would be weird. You know what I mean? Like it would be strange for a joke to pop up. And there are some games like Undertale that are so funny. I remember playing that and being so pleased because even in the opening, right, I remember there's that like moment where you meet a character and then they hurt you and you're like, oh, it tricked me, it deceived me. And it's like, but I was like, oh, this game has a sense of humor. That's really fun. And like, yeah, so I think that whenever I find games like that tonally, it's always like a joy. And like I said, Fortnite has a sense of humor.
Yeah.
I think it just has to depend on what the world is. But yeah, Jokes in Heavy Rain would be bizarre because that's a very like, you know, it's a harrowing story. So I can't say in terms of, just because I don't think I would be able to comment on that in terms of it. But as someone that enjoys games, I would say that for me, it's more just tonally where it works within the story, honestly.
If you haven't had a chance, and one example of it being done well, if you haven't had a chance to play Thank Goodness You're Here yet.
Oh, I haven't played that. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
You can get that done in 3 hours. So, you know, one night
cool.
when you're when your mates are busy and that you can't get on Fortnite with them,
I will.
then give Thank Goodness You're Here, because I mean it's very British, northern, especially comedy.
Okay,
so
great.
That one's really good. And then we'll probably end with this, if that's okay, Kate. We have got a little a feature we do on the podcast where we ask people for their unpopular gaming opinions or their strongly held gaming opinions. Have you got a view that you believe, you think passionately in? So mine, for example, that I shared before was that the GameCube controller is the greatest controller ever designed, and it's a hill I'm willing to die on. Other people have suggested things like you should never skip a cutscene, all these sorts of things. So you may not have one, but I'm just wondering if there's something that you feel strongly or passionately about.
Do you know what's so funny? There's probably something that I do or that I like that I just assume everyone likes. And like, someone be like, no, it's terrible. Like, why are you doing that? I don't have like a hot take, I would say. Probably the main one is just that, sometimes there are games I've played, but I've had to play them on the story mode because I just wouldn't be able to play the game. Yeah. So that's less of a hot take.
No,
it's a very shameful thing, but it is. But it is like, shame here. That's probably my. It's not the hot take, but it's just like, you know what? If you want to enjoy the story, it's okay. Maybe
it's been one of our most popular takes, popular thoughts of our Discord chat and the people who message us on social media, that it is okay. It is perfectly fine to be playing on easy. Thank you very much. And now endorsed by Kate Herron as well. So that's very good. That's great. Well, Kate, listen, it's been an absolute joy having you on the podcast. Thank you very much for being here and chatting. And are you still D&Ding? Because we chatted about that last time as well.
Oh, I haven't for a while, but yeah, I mean, I love it. I love playing tabletop games. So yeah, but I need to find people to play with, so I need to sort that out. But but I do like it. I think the last game I did was like a one shot and we were all rogues, but it was chaos. Like, absolutely. I mean, I was like, I can't do this again. And I'm trying not to just play as a rogue. I think I have to like branch out. But, yeah.
It's having such a renaissance, isn't it? Like on YouTube and stuff, people going crazy for the Dungeons and Dragons content. Yeah, it's amazing. Well, Kate, look, it's been a joy. Thank you very much for being with us. All the best now with whatever's coming next, including your work on The Sims. We're very excited to see what you come up with. And one day we'll get to chat about it when you don't have to be so secret squirrel. And, you know, because I worked in news for so long and still work a lot in news. And then when I went to work on Doctor Who and had to be secret squirrel, I found it so stressful. Not giving the secrets away, so I don't envy you the stress of having to everybody you meet ask you, oh, what's going on with The Sims then? Well, I can't tell you clearly. One day I will be able to.
I kind of enjoy the tricksiness of it. I don't know why. I find it kind of fun. Like I think with my friends and stuff as well, I'm always like, well, I don't know, maybe. Like,
possibly.
They're just like, you're a liar, and I'm like, I have to.
Yeah, I'm a professional liar.
Yeah, it's for my job, but anyway.
Kate, thank you so much. It's been a joy. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.